האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parshas Balak, and we're going to do Os Zion, section 7. The Zera Shimshon is going to talk about a pasuk, which we're going to take a look at first. And that pasuk, give me one moment, please. Is in Perek Chaf Gimel, Bamidbar Perek Chaf Gimel pasuk Tes. This is Bilam talking, and this is after Balak for the first time brings him to a spot to look down at Bnei Yisrael and to curse them. Balak says that he cannot curse Bnei Yisrael because Hashem does not want him to, and he says Ki meirosh tzurim erenu, because from the top of the rocks I see it, meaning I see it, the nation of Bnei Yisrael, umi givaos ashurenu, and from the hills I gaze at it, again at the nation of Bnei Yisrael. Han am levadod yishkon, behold, this is a solitary, this is a nation that dwells by itself. Uva goyim lo yischashav, and among the nations it will not be reckoned. So that pasuk, Zera Shimshon is going to discuss as we move forward a little bit in the piece. Let's begin. Perek Daled de Sanhedrin. Again, this is Os Zion, section 7, Parshas Balak. In the fourth perek of Masechta Sanhedrin, Amar le hahumina le Rebbe Avina. A certain heretic said to Rebbe Avina, Kesiv, the pasuk says, and this is a pasuk from Shmuel Beis, Umi cha'amcha Yisrael, and who is like your nation Yisrael, Goy echad ba'aretz, one nation in the land. The heretic, after quoting that pasuk, said, My rabosaichu, what is your greatness? What is your greatness based on this pasuk? Atunami arvisu behadon. You, the Jews, are also mixed in with us. You're just a nation like all the other nations. Dichsiv, as a pasuk in Yeshaya says, Kol hagoyim ka'ayin negdo. All nations of the world are like nothing in front of Hashem. So the heretic said, you Jews like to think you're so special and so unique. And you talk about psukim like the one in Shmuel Beis where it says, Umi ka'amcha Yisrael, who is like the Jews? No one is like them. They're unique and special. However, you forget one of your own psukim. You forget a pasuk from Tanakh, from Yeshaya, where the Navi clearly says that all the nations of the world, and that presumably includes Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, are like nothing in front of Hashem. So what makes you think you're so special? You're just like us, and all of us are insignificant in the eyes of Hashem, according to your own text, according to your own Tanakh. Omar Le, so Rav Ina responded to the heretic, Mididchu ashidu alon, from among you, meaning from among the non-Jews, they testified about us. Someone amongst you, amongst the non-Jews, a non-Jew testified about us. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, and this is the pasuk we read a moment ago from our parsha of Parshas Balak. Uva goyim lo yischashav, and among the nations, the Jewish people will not be reckoned. So Rabbi Avina said, you're going to quote me a pasuk that says the Jews are included amongst all the nations, and they're like insignificant. Even the Jews and all other nations are insignificant in front of Hashem. Well, guess what? Bilam, a non-Jew, said, and is quoted in the Torah as having said, that the Jewish people are not to be considered like one of the nations and to be included and reckoned among the nations. So therefore, Rabbi Avina said, we can dismiss your proof. Kid de Rabbi Elazar, and the Gemara continues, this is similar to a statement made by Rabbi Elazar, the Rabbi Elazar Rami, because Rabbi Elazar asked a contradiction between two psukim. Kesiv, one pasuk is written in Tehillim, Tov Hashem lakol. Hashem is good to all, to everyone. Uchsiv, and a pasuk in Eicha states, Tov Hashem lekovav. Hashem is good to those who hope in him, who believe and trust and hope to receive goodness from Hashem. So one pasuk implies that Hashem is good to everyone, all of the people of the world. And another pasuk says that Hashem is only good to those who trust and believe it, and Hashem like his nation, like the people of Am Yisrael. How do we reconcile these two psukim? Mashal le'adam sheyesh lo pardes. This is similar to a man who owns an orchard. Kishehu mashke, when he irrigates the orchard, mashke es kulo, he irrigates the entire orchard. All of the trees in the orchard are watered. Ucheshehu oder, and when he goes in to hoe and to deal with the trees that need special services and special work, Eino oder ela hatovim shebahem. He does not do this extra work except for the good, healthy, strong trees among in the orchard. Ad kan, until here is a quote from the Gemara in Maseches Sanhedrin. So the Zera Shimshon is going to pose three questions. Kosher, this is difficult. Demai nafkamina ben Rabbi Avino lehahumina. What is the practical difference between the view expressed by Rabbi Avina and the first view that was expressed by the heretic? We understand that there's a distinction. The Zera Shimshon says, I understand they have different views. The heretic says the Jewish people are just like all the other nations of the world. And he quotes from Yeshaya, a pasuk that says all the nations have no significance in front of Hashem. So there's nothing for the Jews to be particularly proud about and feel that they're unique about. That's the position of the heretic. Rabbi Avinu, on the other hand, says, no, even Bilam admitted that we're not considered like one of the nations of the world, and therefore do not apply to us the pasuk about all of the nations being insignificant. We are special, we are unique. So the Zera Shimshon says that's nice, but is that really it? You're just disagreeing about whether the Jews are special or not? What's the nafkamina? What's the practical difference? Why are they arguing about something that seems to be just rhetorical, that seems to be just hypothetical? What's the practical issue here? That's question one. Ve'amai itzterich Rabbi Avina lemeimar, and why did Rabbi Avina feel the need to say, mididchu ashidu alon? By the way, there's a typographical error you can see there. It shouldn't say alach, it should say alon. But the question is, why did Rabbi Avina feel the need to say, from you non-Jews, I'm going to bring a quote about the uniqueness of the Jewish people and how they shouldn't be included among all of the rest of the nations. I'm going to bring it from you, from a non-Jew, from Bilam. Why did he feel the need to do that? The Zera Shimshon asks. Because what need was there for there to bring a quote from a non-Jewish person on this issue? Did we have to quote a non-Jew, Bilam, to say the Jews are a unique nation? V'halo, and isn't it true? Im haya kosuv batorah pasuk zeh. If the words in this pasuk had been written in the Torah, b'li sheyomar oso Bilam, without having been said by Bilam. Let's just imagine that the words uvad goyim lo yischashav, the Jewish people will not be reckoned among the nations, had been said somewhere else in the Torah, not by Bilam. Hayoraya al zeh. This would have been a solid proof. This would have been enough of a proof without mentioning that Bilam, a non-Jew, said it. Dehoil dehahu mina hevi rayos min Torah. Since the heretic brought his proof and he quoted psukim from the Torah, actually from Tanakh, afhu hayayochol lehashivo min haTorah. Rabbi Avina could also have responded with another pasuk. It would have been a proof and an equal battle. And why did Rabbi Avina have to dafka specifically bring a quote from a non-Jew, from Bilam? Umat tzorech sheyoid Bilam. And what need was there to have Bilam testify, so to speak, have the pasuk from Parshas Balak, our Parsha, Why was it necessary to bring that specific pasuk? There are other psukim that talk about the uniqueness of the Jewish people. That's question 2. The ode in another question, meaning a third question, my shayech hacha, what is the relevance here? Hach the Rebbe Elazar, of this statement, this parable that Rebbe Elazar brought, vehamoshel lo adam shehaya lo pardes, about a man who had an orchard. How is that relevant here? Meaning that part seemingly, apparently, could have been left out, and you would have had Rebbe Avina's answer, and that would have been the end of the discussion. The heretic tried to prove that the Jews aren't special. Rebbe Avina brought a pasuk to say we are unique, and even Bilam testified and said that we're unique and special and are not reckoned among the non-Jews of the non-Jewish nations of the world. Period. That's it. That's all we need. Why did the Gemara feel the need to bring in the story of the man in the orchard that Rebbe Elazar had said? What's the connection? What's the relevance? The Yesh Lomar, and we can say, the Isa b'Medrash, it states in the Medrash Rabbah, al pasuk, on the pasuk, on our pasuk, uvagoyim lo yischashav, among the nations, the Jewish people are not counted or are not to be reckoned. Kisheha umos ha'olim smechim, when the nations of the world celebrate, Yisrael smechim imohem, the Jewish people celebrate with them. If the nations of the world are benefiting, are receiving blessings from Hashem, then the Jews are included and they also receive blessings from Hashem. And they celebrate at that time because of those blessings. Yisrael smechim. However, when the Jewish people receive blessings from Hashem and are celebrating, ein umosa olam smechim imohem, the non-Jewish nations of the world do not receive those blessings, and they do not celebrate along with the non-Jewish nations do not celebrate along with Bnei Yisrael. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Hen am levadad yishkon. This is our pasuk. Behold, this is a nation that dwells by itself. Uvagoyim lo yischashav, and among the nations it will not be reckoned. So the Medrash Rabbah from this pasuk extrapolates that when the nations of the world celebrate, the Jews can celebrate along with them. However, when the Jews celebrate blessings from Hashem, the nations of the world do not receive those blessings and therefore do not celebrate. That's our first. Zera Shimshon is giving us our first building block. The kavanas hamin, and the intention of the heretic Hayaso was lomar, to say, Atun nami arvisu behadon. You Jews are also mixed in with us, ve'im kain, and therefore, yesh lanu lismoach kesha atem smechim. We should celebrate when you celebrate. So now the Zera Shimshon is beginning to say that the heretic had a specific point, a practical point he was making, not just rhetorical, not just theoretical or philosophical. He was saying, you Jews, and he quoted a pasuk to support it from Yeshaya, are included with us, uvagoyim, and therefore, when you're blessed, we should be included and receive part of that blessing as well, and we should also be able to separate. Lefi she'achar hachaluka she'asu Yaakov ve'esav, because after the division that Yaakov and Esav made, she'Yaakov natal lechelko ha'olam haba, in which Yaakov took for his portion the world to come, ve'esav ha'olam hazeh, and Esav chose this world, lo nishar leYaakov shum taina, there did not remain to Yaakov any claim, even a modicum of a claim, lehanos meha'olam hazeh, to get benefit from this world. Ella, but shehoil sheYaakov hayarachman al banav, since Yaakov took pity, had compassion, had feelings for his future descendants, his sons and his future descendants, nischakem, he was shrewd, he was wise, liknos me Esav, to acquire from Esav, harishus, permission, lehanos me'at meha'olam hazeh, to benefit somewhat from this world. ki de'isa b'medrash, as it states in the Medrash, also the Medrash Rabbah, michra chayom es bechoroscha li. When Yaakov said to Esav, this is the famous story where Esav came in hungry and tired, and he said, give me some of that food, that red food you're cooking, that red porridge. And Yaakov said, I'll be happy to give you some, but you have to sell to me kayom, like this day, your birthright, the fact that you have the rights of the firstborn, of the Bechor. And of course, Esav agreed. Esav said, what do I need that for? I don't need that. And he sold his rights of the firstborn. He sold the Bechorah to Yaakov. Zovin lichad yom min didoch. Yaakov said to Esav, sell me, as part of this transaction, sell me one of the days of yours. And the Zera Shimshon, the Medrash Rabbah, is saying when Yaakov said the unusual language of michra chayom, sell to me like the day, es bechoroscha, your rights of the firstborn. When he used that word, he inserted that word chayom, like the day. What that's alluding to, what that's teaching us, is that Yaakov said to Esav, we're making a big transaction here. I'm claiming olam haba. You're claiming olam hazeh. I would like to get a little bit of permission to get a little bit of benefit from olam hazeh. And so kayom, like one day, you'll have 7 days of the week, and you'll have 6 days of the week, and I'll have 1 day of the week to benefit from olam hazeh. And Esav agreed. That was part of the transaction. And this is what we talked about at length back previously in its place on Parshas Toldos. V'ayin Sham, and you can look there where the Zera Shimshon discusses this issue at length. But for our purposes, the point is, we're learning that Yaakov and Esav made an incredibly important, significant transaction with ramifications, incredibly profound ramifications for the future. And the transaction was that Esav sold the rights of the firstborn to Yaakov. And this allowed Yaakov to claim the prize, so to speak, of Olam Haba. And for Esav to get Olam Hazeh, which was fine for Esav, but Yaakov understood that the spiritual rewards of Olam Haba are far and away above anything that could possibly exist in Olam Hazeh. However, Yaakov was even wiser and shrewder, and he said to Esav, I'd like to have a little bit of Olam Hazeh for my descendants, give me permission that they can enjoy a little bit 1 day out of the week as part of this transaction, and Esav agreed. V'im kain, and if so, Bishlama, this if so is the Zera Shimshon here is explaining the heretic's reasoning. V'im kain, and if so, if that transaction took place, Bishlama sheyiu Yisrael smechim ma'at im ha'umos nicha. It makes sense and it's reasonable that the Jews should benefit when the non-Jews benefit. So the heretic says, I get it, I understand. Yaakov asked Esav and got permission for the Jews to have Olam Haba and a little bit of Olam Hazeh. So therefore, when the first piece in the Medrash Rabbah taught us that when the non-Jews are blessed and celebrate in this world, the Jews also celebrate and are blessed a little bit, he says, I get that. Aval sheYisrael yiyu smechem levadam. But this idea that the Jews will celebrate in Olam Haba strictly on their own, below ha'umos, without the nations of the world, the non-Jewish nations of the world being able to benefit in the next world at all in general, lo nicha, that does not make sense. That is not fair. Umekach ta'os huzeh. And this should be considered an invalid sale, a mistaken sale. Ve'eno min hadin, and it is not lawful. Let's pause here for a moment. The Zera Shimshon has gone deep into the claim, to the understanding of the claim of the heretic. And he's teaching us that what the heretic was really saying to Rabbi Avina was making a very powerful claim. And he was saying to Rabbi Avina you Jews like to think you're unique and special, and therefore you think it's okay to claim that in the next world, only you will be able to have Olam Haba. But we non-Jewish nations of the world should just enjoy ourselves in this world because we will not be given any portion or any simcha in the next world. And you, Bnei Yisrael, you Jewish people, you're totally okay with that and you think that's fine. But no, it's not fine and it's not lawful and it's unjust. Why? Because in the transaction that Yaakov and Esav made, when Yaakov said, we'll have all of Olam Haba, and you, non-Jew, and you, Esav, will have all of Olam Hazeh, you and your descendants. He then took it a step further, did Yaakov. And he said, Esav, give me a little bit. Let my descendants have a little bit of Olam Hazeh. So the heretic said, obviously, as part of that understanding was from Esav's perspective that his descendants would have part of Olam Haba. That goes without saying. That's obvious. Nobody in a transaction gives up something without any kind of compensation. So obviously, the non-Jewish nations of the world, the Umas HaOlam, have a rightful claim to share benefit and to share reward in Olam Haba and not be completely excluded. That is the real claim of the heretic. Next paragraph. Rabbi Avina and Rabbi Avina Rotzel Tares Lo wanted to answer this to him, to the heretic. De'in hachinami. Yes, I am going to concede your point. Dimitam osa hamachira, based on the reasoning of that sale, that transaction between Yaakov and Esav, haya hadin kach. The law would have been just as what you said. Rabbi Avina conceded to the heretic, and he said, "You're right. That's fair. That's an excellent point. If we, as descendants of Yaakov Avinu, can have Olam Haba and have a little bit of Olam Hazeh, then the Umos HaOlam should have Olam Hazeh and a little bit of Olam Haba. Aval ho'il she'achar kach nisgalgulu hadivorim." However, I'm sorry, before we read that, let me expand on that point for one moment. And therefore, if the Jewish people are going to continue to maintain that they want and they deserve the sole and the only unique ability to receive the schar of Olam Haba, if that's what Bnei Yisrael wants to claim, then they have to renounce all claims in Olam Hazeh and say, nope, that original idea, that original shrewd move, business move that Yaakov Avinu made has been invalidated, because Bnei Yisrael is going to say, we want all of Olam Haba uniquely for us and none for the Umos HaOlam. And therefore the Umas HaOlam have a right, Rabbi Avina is conceding, have a right to say, fine, okay, we have total use of Olam Hazeh, and you should have no benefit in Olam Hazeh. So when we benefit and are blessed in Olam Hazeh, you, Bnei Yisrael, move on, pass on. You have no right to claim any of our benefits and blessings in Olam Hazeh. That's the way it should be, and Rabbi Avina conceded that point. Now, continuing. Aval, however, ho'il she'achar kach nisgalgulu hadvorim. However, after this transaction between Yaakov and Esav, that involved the bowl of the red beans, things developed. Uva'u habrachos leYaakov, and the blessings at a later point when Yitzchak was about to die, and he said to Esav, "Come, I want to give you special blessings." And Yaakov, with the help of his mother Rivka, came in and was able to get the brachos. Nitosaf kocho, his strength was added to. Yaakov Avinu gained by getting the bracha at that moment. Shema she'eno yochol lehanos mikoach hamekach, the fact that he could not, from the strength of his original transaction, he could not claim for his descendants any benefits in Olam Hazeh. Now, yehenem yachmas habrachos, he can claim those benefits because of the brachos that he was able to get from his father Yitzchak Avinu. Ve'im tomar, and if you say, meaning if the heretic makes the response, ve'al zeh ani don, this is exactly my point. I'm trying to make that point also. Ve'yesh li af bozeh makom taina, and I have even on this point a valid claim. top of the next column, Lomar, to say, Shahabrachos hein gezulos biyado. Yaakov stole the brachos. That, don't point to that transaction of the brachos, the giving of the brachos to Yaakov and say that gives you special privileges or rights. That was stolen. Lefisha ba'ulo b'mirma ubeikva, because the blessings came to Yaakov only through deceit and trickery. That's not valid. That shouldn't be legally valid. So the Rabbi Avina responds to that second point. Hello, isn't it true? Kfar hodisem, you non-Jewish nations of the world have agreed. You've admitted shetihiyeno liyisrael elu habrachos, that there should be to Bnei Yisrael a rightful claim to these blessings. Ve'elu hahanaos, and these benefits habaos machmas habrachos, that come through the blessings. V'zehu sheheshiv lo Rabbi Avina mididchu, and this is what Rabbi Avina meant when he said, from you, from one of your people, from Bilam, a non-Jew, I'm going to bring a quote that says that Bnei Yisrael is not to be included and mixed in with the umos ha'olam. Klomar, this means to say, hoil shemei atzmechem hodisem lanu, since you, as in your representative Bilam, admitted to us shebe'ei simchasenu, at the time of our joy, our true joy in olam haba, ein lachem chelek imanu, you have no right to claim a portion with us. Im kain hodaas baldin kemeya edim. If so, let's apply the law. Let's apply the real din, which is that if a litigant admits that, let's say, he's obligated to pay, or that the other litigant is not obligated to pay him, that's equal to 100 witnesses. That's the strongest proof there can be in a monetary court case, or a damages or a tort case, where the one of the litigants says, all this time I've been denying that I owe you the $100. I have to concede and admit that I owe you the $100. That's it. No one needs any witnesses. No one. That's it. He admitted that he owes the money. That's Kamei Edim. That's as strong as 100 witnesses. That seals the case. Umishum hachi nokat mididchu, and that's why Rabbi Avino specifically said, I'm not going to quote just any pasuk in the Torah that talks about the uniqueness of Bnei Yisrael. No, to make my point, I have to bring in Bilam, a member of the Umos HaOlam, a leader amongst a Navi, a prophet amongst the Umos HaOlam, to say and admit and concede that it's Bnei Yisrael that is unique and special, and only Bnei Yisrael enjoys the rights to Olam Haba. Last paragraph. V'hashta osi shapir hamoshol shehevi moshol adam v'chule. And now we can understand the parable about the orchard that was the Gemara brought in the name of Rebbe Elazar. Af kan HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to hear Hashem, kishen nosein shalva le'umos, when he gives tranquility to the umos ha'olam, when he blesses the umos ha'olam, ba'olam hazeh, nosein af Yisrael, he gives also blessings to Bnei Yisrael. Just like the man in the parable, when he waters his orchard, all of the trees in the orchard receive water and are watered. Aval kishen nosein rak Yisrael. However, when Hashem says, I have a bracha, I have a blessing and a reward to give only to Bnei Yisrael, ein zar itam, then no stranger, no one who's not a member of Bnei Yisrael is included with Bnei Yisrael in that reward. Ve'al zeh amar hakosov, and regarding this idea of Bnei Yisrael being able to benefit somewhat along with the Umos HaOlam in this world, but the Umos HaOlam not being able to benefit with Am Yisrael as a general proposition in the Olam Haba, he's going to bring a quote from Tehillim, Perek Dalet. This actually is the last two psukim in Perek Dalet of Tehillim. Nasata simcha v'libi, you put joy in my heart, me eis degonam v'sirosham rabu, which is at the time when they bring in their grain and their wine. And Rabu means it's even more, saying more than just the Umos Olam celebrating at the time of bringing in their grain and their wine and having all of the blessings, the agricultural blessings of Olam Hazeh. Hashem, you also put at that time, you put simcha in my heart as well, the pasuk says. And now the Zera Shimshon explains, when you bring this joy to the umos from them bringing in their crops, so too I, B'nai Yisrael, so too I benefit and rejoice with them somewhat, because the B'nai Yisrael can also be blessed in this world in that way. V'lochein, and therefore the pasuk continues, B'shalom yachtav eshkava v'ishan, in peace and harmony I will lie down and sleep. Is adon, this means that they get pleasure. Eze mi'at, a somewhat. Kemoshinas laila, like going to sleep at night. So the pasuk is saying that when Bnei Yisrael receives a blessing in this world, they're able to sleep peacefully and they're able to have a blessed, peaceful night of sleep. Aval ba'ad, continuing in the pasuk in Tehillim, ki ato Hashem levodod, but when you, Hashem, are alone, so to speak, klomar, this means to say, kesha'ata misamcheni levadi, when you, Hashem, decide to reward me, Bnei Yisrael, by myself, that's what it means when Hashem is alone. When Hashem says to Bnei Yisrael, it's just the two of us, I want to give you a special, unique blessing that doesn't apply to anyone else. Kemo Hashem bodad yanchenu, like the pasuk in Devarim, a pasuk later in the Torah says that Hashem leads the people solitarily. Az lovetach toshiveni, then, and these last two words are from the pasuk, the end of the pasuk in Tehillim, then you will set me down, or you will establish me lavetach securely. Lo yeh od kemoshinas laila. Then this is no longer simply talking about going to sleep at night and having a restful night. Raktia menucha shlema. At the time that Hashem gives Bnei Yisrael their true reward in Olam Haba, then it will be unimaginably greater and more magnificent than the reward of a good night's sleep. It'll be menucha shlema, like the complete and total rest and reward, belishum ir or meha umos, without any complaints or issues or problems coming from the umos ha'olam. Shehare kfar hodu li al habrachos, because the umos ha'olam through Bilam have already conceded and admitted that whatever Bnei Yisrael might not have received through the sale transaction between Yaakov and Esav, they made up for that from the Yaakov getting the brachos from Yitzchak Avinu at the end of Yitzchak Avinu's life. So now let's just go back and look at back to the beginning when the Zera Shimshon posed his three questions and make sure we understand how they all fit together. So the Zera Shimshon's first question is, what's the practical difference between the heretic and Rabbi Avina? And we understand clearly that they weren't just talking philosophically. There was a real difference here. The heretic was claiming that either the Bnei Yisrael had to allow for the possibility of the Umos HaOlam as complete nations, not exceptional members of the Umos Olam, but as complete nations deserve a right to Olam Haba, just like Bnei Yisrael deserves a right to some benefit in Olam Hazeh, or Bnei Yisrael has to say, no, we admit it, we only get Olam Haba, we have no claims to Olam Hazeh whatsoever, only the Umos Olam have proper justified claims to Olam Hazeh. That's what the heretic was claiming. Rabbi Avina's position was absolutely not. We will never, the Bnei Yisrael will never admit that, because not only do we have the unique claim to Olam Haba as a nation, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelek Olam Haba, all of the nation of Am Yisrael has a Chelek in Olam Haba. That's our claim, and we also have zuchus, have the merit to benefit in certain ways from blessings in Olam Hazeh as well. And so there was a major difference between the two positions. The second question was, why did Rabbi Avina feel the need, instead of bringing in a general quote from the Torah, to bring in a specific quote from Bilam and to emphasize to the men and say, I'm quoting from one of you. I'm quoting from Bilam. Why did he feel the need to do that when he could have brought any pasuk? Answer, because the whole point is to say that the heretic was claiming that the umos ha'olam feel the entire transaction, the original transaction, and the brachos for Yaakov Avinu, both of those were marred. Both of those have some technical difficulties and legal problems. And therefore, the heretic was claiming that the entire understanding of how Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba should work vis-a-vis Umos Olam and Bnei Yisrael has to be changed. And therefore Rabbi Avina needed to bring in Bilam to say, even you, Umos Ha'olam, you have conceded through Bilam that we deserve the brachos that we received, and we have a valid legal right to a chelek and Olam Hazeh. And then the third question involved the story of the orchard that was brought in the name of Rabbi Elazar, and the Zera Shimshon said, why was that brought here? And now at the end of the piece, we can look back and say that parable fits perfectly, because it goes right to the heart of what the the heretic, and Rabbi Avina were arguing about and we're discussing. And the whole point of the parable is to say Hashem is like the owner of the orchard. When he irrigates his field, all of the trees receive the water, not just Umos Ha'olam, but Bnei Yisrael too benefits in Olam Hazeh. However, when the owner of the field goes out to give special, unique attention to those strong, good, healthy trees that deserve it, and invest extra energy and effort, that's similar to Hashem saying, when I'm going to give my truly unique special reward of Olam Haba, that's only going to go to Bnei Yisrael exclusively. So very beautiful and powerful lessons here in this piece. Yasher koach everyone for joining in to the lesson tonight, and we look forward to learning Zera Shimshon again next week.